and off we go. Well, a very warm welcome to everybody. It's Tuesday, 2 o'clock, and it's time for our webinar, not Friday at 5 to 5. For those of you who remember the good old, actually, no, I hear it's coming back as well. I was going to mention the word. I got my pencil ready and all that sort of stuff, but we're going to wait for it to return. Peter Glaze, Ed Stewart. Oh, them were the days. Someone will be sitting there thinking, what's he talking about? Anyway, let's without further ado, let's move on. Lots to talk about today. Lots to talk about. New slides. Well, not, the Humber and East Riding Lep, East Yorkshire Lep, I should say. It's all about Google Analytics today. Yes, and I've got to mention the local enterprise partnership, and a few quick things, specialising in startups, careers, and the Growth Hub. I'm sure many of you are registered with the aforementioned organisation. I'm here on behalf of the Grow My SME programme, so to deliver help in business growth, of which there are 3 strands: finance, ICT, and me in the blue bit, which is business growth. And so there we are. Lots of advice, lots of one-to-one support. And I've done that very hurriedly because we want to get on to the main event, which is all about Google My Business. There's not one big slideshow today. It's going to be, before we launch into the quiz, to tell you, we're going to do live Google Analytics. So if you've got your computers at the ready, please feel free. Oh, I tell you what, I've had a really busy morning. I went to the opticians. My other half said to me, what are you going to do after the opticians? I said, I'll see. She said, I live in Sherburn in Helmet, and it's a nice place. Last night was a bit strange occurrence. I saw 2 ladies weaving all over the road. So I stopped them and said, why don't you just get yourself a loom? But it's a nice place, really. It's not a tourist trail sort of thing, but it's nice, and there's not much to go and see here. But did you know what catches my eye? You know what really catches my eye? Yeah, short people with umbrellas. Right, come on, let's not mess around anymore. Let's get on with the quiz. Today's quiz is all about, what's it all about? Google. Well, we're gonna have that. Feel free to use the aforementioned chat line. Thank you, Catherine. You like the new layout? Well, it is my contractual obligation to the East Humber and East Yorkshire Lep, but it's just between us. So anyway, Google's original name was Backrub. Well, is that true or false? False, says Catherine. Well, I'm reliably informed it was true. Well, there you are. You have to Google that one. No pun intended. The name Google was a misspelling. True or false? Oh, dear. Dear. What was it? Was it? What? How could it be? It was, I believe, Google was a misspelling because the word is Google, which I think is a number, I believe. And if you are looking for this, look online. Please feel free to say I'm erroneous. Google rents 200 goats to mow the weeds around its headquarters. True or false? Come on, I'm not kidding. True or false? Any takers for that one? All these environmental things. Come on, Catherine. It's true. As you do, as we all do. Now there we are. Look at those 2. Do you know who those 2 are? Not famous faces, nor probably famous names, but we wouldn't mind having a chunk of their wealth. He says, sounding slightly bitter and avaricious. That is the aforementioned founders of Google, Larry and Sergey. I think I had a meerkat named after him. So Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Yeah. Do you know? Is it true they met at Stanford when Brin was asked to show Page around the school? True or false? Yeah. Anyone know that one? It is funny how people meet, isn't it? Yeah. True. I thought there might be a joke there about meeting online, but I didn't attempt that one. I didn't do that one. Funny, isn't it? You think about how you met people. Larry and Sergei's private planes are special runways in NASA, which no other plane is allowed to land at. Well, that tells you how important it is. There we go. Their own plane. Isn't that nice? And now, last one. Google owns a pet T-Rex called Colin, which has been placed at their California headquarters. True or false? You know, you can't write it, can you? You can't believe I'm making that one up. Any takers for that one before we... Oh, hang on, what have we got here? It is true. It isn't true. It's called Stan. Catch you out with that one. And there it is. There it is. Yeah, a dinosaur. Yeah. Something to get your ribs into. But there it is. Yeah, there's the Google headquarters. There what happens like a lot of businesses, you know, starting small, and all of a sudden you've got a dinosaur in your on your real estate. So come on, let's get on with the main event. We've got a lot to cover. Now, I'm always conscious, no brain ache today. 3/4 of an hour is the before you get a numb bum and you've had enough. So, right, first question, why do you need Google Analytics? That's not an unreasonable question to ask. Well, the simple answer is if you've got an online presence, if you've got an online presence, you would need analytics. What is the point? Some would argue in having a online presence unless you manage it. I've often used this analogy of think of your website as a corner shop. So it's the important thing is how many people come to the shop, what do they do while they're in the shop, and do they buy anything? Plus the fact, obviously, your website is open all hours. So think of your website in those terms. So really simply, you need Google Analytics because it's to understand how effective your website is as a marketing tool. And you've got valuable information to help you drive your traffic. Simple reasons. So know what's happening in the world and to help you gain more traffic. Really, really simply, so it boils down to 3 things. It's to fully help you improve your marketing, your optimization, your search engine optimization, and the performance of your website. And this will be the strand through our webinar this afternoon. But let's cut to the chase. Let's begin with 2 issues. Firstly, to use your analytics, you do not have to be spending all day, every day, not that you would, or a big chunk of your time on Geek Zone, staring at a computer. And the second issue is about time. You know, you can spend as little as 20 minutes, half an hour or so a week just on this. But if you have a website and it's really important to see it's working, it would surely make sense to undertake a weekly MOT. Okay, welcome, Carla. So, what does it all ultimately mean? Are we going to be swamped with data? Are we going to be able to stare at the screen and not have a clue what's going on? Well, no, because the key thing with your website will take you through today is very much, and I hope I'm not patronizing on, this is a slow walk through the absolute basics of Google Analytics. Now, first things first, we all like in Yorkshire and in something that's free. So it is fundamentally simply free. You just have to log on and it gives you the complete picture relating to your site's performance. Free, the full story. And it really addresses many of these questions. How many visitors do your site get? Where are they all coming from? Holland, probably. Where are they coming from? How do they navigate through your site, how long they spend on each page, and as in time-honored tradition, much, much more. So there's some really fundamental questions. If you go back to the metaphor of the shop, wouldn't it be nice to have a report such as this? And we'll see it in a moment or two. You get simple presented data to see how things are. Right, need a little bit of explanation now. Think of Google Analytics as really focusing on three parts. Firstly, page views. Secondly, events. And thirdly, transactions. Now, we will focus very much today on orange, page views. What events are, it's when you actually are, you are encouraging somebody or the visitor to your site to do something. So it could be download something, fill a form in. And when it comes to transactions, by definition, you want someone to pay for something. But word of warning, or maybe not a word of warning, I think this is advantageous. You do not get raw data. You don't? Nope. No. You get reports. So somebody else does all the work for you. And the data comes in really two forms. One is user data, and the other is session data. So that's what you get. So let's just explain these terms. And please, I hope I'm not going too fast. If you've got any questions, just whiz them on the chat line and I'll address them as best I can. So the user data, it really starts by thinking of your first element as being different and distinct visitors to your site. Then each time that happens, Google Analytics creates a unique ID for each new visitor. So Bob comes onto your site, he leaves behind a footprint as an ID. And so therefore, if Bob, call him, as in Blackadder, Bob, same user revisits your website, Google Analytics recognizes the ID. So back to the analogy of the corner shop, Bob comes in, leaves, Bob comes back, there's a different measurement, so you'll see that. So really important, you got user data. And then what is a session? Well, as the name suggests, it's a period that a user spends on your site. So different visitors. And it begins, the session begins with a page view hit when the first person first arrives, and then it continues until they leave. I think I'm correct in saying that if they don't, it took time, Google Analytics times people out, I think after 29 minutes of inactivity. So the session will automatically end if the person has been, or the aforementioned Bob has been passive. Right, so I hope that's okay. That's the data element. And then you get a report. Now here is my school report. Yeah, look at that. Look at that great name, penmanship. Arithmetic, we call it. And that's in spelling. I was always quite good at spelling. Yeah. I wasn't very good at art. My teacher said to me, Simon has difficulty drawing his own breath. So you get a report. And the report is in I like this word, graphological. Yes, roll your R's, graphological format. So you get that. Okay, so now, two final things before we launch into the world. Let's talk about dimensions and metrics. So dimensions are the simple attributes of the data. So like a country can be a dimension and it'll help you. So the metaphor is like peeling back an onion. You've got the onion and you take a little bit and you can peel it back. Yep. So drill down, I think, is also another word. I don't really like deep dive. So the metrics then are in effect quantitative measurements, the numbers. So a session metric will tell you what has actually taken place on the site over a period. So the dimensions and the metrics, the data and the sessions. Okay. So, but you might be wondering, How do I get me Google Analytics? Well, it's quite simple. You need to sign up to Google to get an account, and then you can install the analytics onto your website. It does need a little bit of human intervention. This is taken straight from Google. So you sign up for Google Analytics, you need to get a tracking code, and then you can learn all about your audience. It's simple 3 steps. So first things first, you sign up and voila, apologies for the slightly blurred screen, but it's the account setup and you need an account name. And then what Google Analytics can do, it asks you what you can measure. So you can measure both your website and measure, if those of you are fortunate or have invested also in your apps, both iOS and Android. And then you will actually, you may have multiple websites and you put the website name in and off you go. But you'll need, before you do anything else, a tracking code. And you get your tracking code from a little arrow, and we'll see it in a moment or two, the admin section. In effect, it's a little gizmo that you put in. So you go into the admin section, you find the section called tracking information, press tracking code, and what happens? You get an ID, much in the same way as you're tracking, an Amazon parcel. So you've got your code, and then the code has to be put into your website. Now, some of you might be thinking, do I need a tracking code on each page of my website? Well, no, you don't, but I'll show you a couple of things that if you have a WordPress website, how to install Google Analytics. You may actually want to avoid analytics altogether, potentially, and use a variant, not a Delta variant, just a variant. And so Monster Insight, SiteKite, and there are plenty of others that you may find as plugins. You may choose, they will take information and put it on your site, or in a slightly less detailed way, but they also are available if you just want high-level information. To add the tracking code into your website, you can put it into the header and footer, as I illustrate right here on the screen. So YouTube is always a good place for this as well. Make sure you get into the header and footer. Now, if I've lost anybody, so signing up to Google, getting your website, getting your tracking code, putting it into the header and footer is a simple way. If in doubt, I would like to think each and every one of you who has a website and has entrusted a web designer to do it has done this for you and provided you with reports, or at least the logins. If you haven't, make that call. So, are we? Are we? We shall. I'm going to stop sharing momentarily. I'm going to check the chat line. Is there any questions? No, because I'm going to share another screen, which hopefully is the Google Analytics screen, which hopefully is going to happen. So the word hopefully twice now, because I'm very hopeful. Give me a moment, it takes a little slow loading. And the Google Analytics screen should come up, he says. Famous last words. It's coming, loading. So I do apologize for the glacial nature of this. There we go. The heart rate has gone down. So that is the screen. So you've got, in effect, the key bit. If I just focus on the democratic side, the left-hand side, you have we're on the home page. You can also customize your home page. And then here where my mouse is lingering is the report section, and we'll cover these areas here today. So real-time, audience, acquisition, behavior, and conversions. We could be here all day, but this is a little overview. Now, what you'll see up on the screen straight away is a synopsis of what is happening right now, which is a bit of a disappointment because it says this is the website, no users right now. Despite me actually speaking to my only friend, I asked them if they'd go on the website at 2:20. Let's hope they turn up. But I would click, we're going over an unfair time period. So what you can see, you might argue, or you may wish to, we're going to click on last 7 days, and we're going to broaden our search to the last 28 days. And you'll see things all of a sudden change. I'll take you through this homepage first and foremost. Right, 28 days. So you can see what has happened over the last 28 days in terms of activity. There have been, for this particular website, 94 users, of which there have been 96 sessions. And there you can see we've got an idea of what is known as the bounce rate. And then we've got how long somebody spends on the website of the 94. They've averaged at 43 seconds. And at my age, 43 seconds is pretty good. So does anybody want to answer the question, what is the bounce rate? Oft mentioned. I'm going to have a little rest for a moment, stare expectantly at the chat line and hope somebody answers. If not, I'll give you a little explanation. Is anybody coming? Is there anybody out there? So if not, do not worry. The bounce rate, I think, is explained with a little click here, but in effect, 94 people have come along and there's been 96 sessions. So of the 94, if you have 100% bounce rate, in its simplest terms, they've only done one thing before leaving. So in this situation, without knowing the full nuances of the website, you could argue that a lot of people, or a certain number of people have arrived in the last few days, gone on to one page. Some have gone to more than one page and some have left. So invariably this happens a lot with a lot of service-based websites. In many people just use it for information. They go on the home page, get a phone number, get a click, whatever it is, and leave. So much depends on the nature. So that is the absolute study, and you can see what's happening right now. Let's scroll down. How do you acquire users? And again, I'm going to click a wider number here. I'm going to go from 7 days. Oh my goodness, for the last 90 days. We click that, and we hope it happens. So there we are. Now, we've got 5 elements of how they arrive. I will hover over this one. You can see, yeah, between the 24th and the 30th of April. 45 came direct, 14 organic, 2 referrals, none from social, 1 from other. There's always the other. What is direct? That is when a user will have the domain name and arrive straight on it. Often a way of doing this is by maybe clicking on someone's email signature or typing the domain name into the bar at the top. An organic search is the idea that many people would use keywords to find it and they'll click through. A referral will be using a directory or another site to come to you. Social Don't need a quiz on that one. Social media and other is usually unclassified, that Google will not have a notification on this. So this is extremely important to see. So you get, for here, there's obviously a lot of activity that particular week. And the question is always, why? What happened that week for people to get the direct, or what hasn't happened? So you get a really good high level view about acquisition. Let's move on into this home report. How are your active users trending? Now, again, you can adjust the time, last 30 days, and you can see for this occasion, the average is, I feel like Chris Whitty here. Next slide, please. So you can see what's happening. So there is, over the last month, a decline. So in terms of the monthly, but then you get also the weekly and the daily. So this website on averages about 3 daily users, 21 weekly, 7 times 21, and so forth. So you really get an idea of what's happening in terms of what's trending, and you can choose longer time periods. If we move over to the right, how well do you retain your users? You can see all the dark are coming in new, but then, as I mentioned, to use our mythical Bob. Bob came and he came again. He left his footprint and he came back. So it's really useful to know how many returning visitors you've got. Do you really want people to come and leave? So much depends on the nature of your site. And there we come moving on. When do your users visit? So some people like to come at 3 a.m. I should rephrase that. 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning, 2 users, but again, it could be by coming from different countries. And also, so you get an idea. So if you're going to be putting things out on social media, the click-throughs, again, you can click in far more detail into this. So you get an idea of when people are arriving. So for example, for some of you might be doing business relating to Father's Day. You want to sending out notifications, people clicking through certain times. And then you get into where are your users? Now, you didn't need me to tell you. I've got a fan base in India. Well, not true. Or actually, I'm doing business in Indonesia, so that explains some of it. But a lot of it is where the period where the URL is. For many of you like to be UK, we'll come on to that one. And then you get an idea of the sessions on the right, your devices. Now, desktop and mobile. So you can see for this particular site, many are visiting through a desktop, which might indicate you've got maybe more Office users, who knows. And then on this final bit, done quite quickly, is what pages do your users visit? And it lists the page views. Now the backslash is a great page. So there you are. It's actually the home page. And then they've got the About Us, and it goes to show you the pages that are regularly visited. But again, it's only over the last 7 days. So if you actually are looking at this, you get a really good view, but you do only get the icing. You don't get the cake. But the home page, as my friend Turn Up hasn't. You can't get the stuff. So you get an idea just on the home page there. So, okay, I'm going to quickly go to the chat line to see if there are any questions. No. Right. If not, we will move swiftly along. So we've gone from real time. We're now into, yes, you guessed it, audience. So if you click on audience, what do you get? You get all this data here. Some of it you can see is beta data, so it's not fully functional. So I'm going to click on overview for audience. So in the audience area, hopefully it's loading. It is loading. There we go. Now, in this situation, you can see, and again, always go to the right, top right. You can change the time. So this is from the 5th of April to yesterday. And you can see what's happened. You get a really high level view there as to what day, look, all the different days. And a lot happened on the 27th of April. So you might choose a Tuesday. Well, there you go. So, and there you are. Now, what's interesting is you get more detail, how many people have come. It's much more detailed than what we saw on the home page, a longer period of time. You can see the users, the new users, the sessions, the amount of sessions, etc., and the bounce rate and the average time. And you get the idea for this site that there are a lot of people coming, just new visitors. And then underneath that, you can see the languages. So imagine you're an e-commerce site and you're getting lots of potentially German visitors. You may think about different languages. You get an idea of what you may wish to do, and you can explore. Now, obviously, it is misleading because of the URLs. But good high-level information on audience overview. The next thing I'll just click on is demographics. So it's further down. See, time doesn't permit, because so quickly look at demographics. What does it tell us? Well, it evolves quickly, but you get the view of the age and gender of and the interests of your visitors over that time period. So you can see, I appeal modestly, he says, appeal to a younger audience. But they are, and the male, and you can see that a lot. So again, when it comes to thinking about maybe writing content for your website, you'll very high level, but you'll aim it at a certain audience with a level of interests. So that is a whistle-stop tour through audience. Really good stuff. I'll click. Now, we then come back to acquisition. And it's the same scenario. You can see you've got all good stuff here. Acquisition. Overview, we'll go to the overview again for acquisition. And again, you've got great information. You've got the same right hand, top right, looking at the date. You can adjust that and put your own dates in. Go for one date. You can look in a pie chart about the channels. You've got the information relating to the users. I'll come on to the goals in a moment. And there you can start to see more about segmenting what the direct traffic did, what the organic traffic did, and what the social traffic did. So the social user just saw one page. If you click on those, and you can click underneath those, so you can actually start to see what each and every one of the users, depending on the method by which they came to you, did. The best page relating to acquisition is one of what I call the 2 high-level pages. If you just want to see one particular page, click on all traffic. And and channels. Hopefully loads up. And there we are. You can see, again, it's covering the 5th of April, but you get the highest level overview. And then again, it just gives you all the information. It's more detailed now, direct, organic. And you can get the sessions. So you get whether a new user, how long they stay, the bounce rates, which pages, how many pages have looked at. So using acquisition and looking at the overview is that way. And you can look further down by just clicking on the likes of referrals. And just as an illustrative point, here we go. Look at that. I hope that's come up on the screen. You can see where the referrals came from. So Yale.com, Leeds City College, Yahoo. I'm unfamiliar, I have to be honest, with Jubal, Facebook.com. So if you are setting up, and I'd encourage everyone to set up links into your website to create referrals, here is where you can see if they're working, how many, what they're doing. And again, by just clicking on each one, you go on to source, same issues come up. Source for that. Again, you might assume a lot come in direct. Then you've got Google, Bing, Baidu, Yahoo, and so forth. Trustpilot. Again, you're just delving deeper into how your business, so how your visitors are acquired. Okay? So that's a very thumbnail sketch of real time, of your audience, and acquisition. The next category is behavior. Nice. They've done it for us Brits by calling it, not spelling it correctly. So let's go into behavior. Always, for me, I always start with overview. And there we are. Again, it's taking the same time period. It's giving more detailed information about the number of views, the time on the page, the bounce rate. And it's seeing, again, the specific pages that people have been looking at over that time period. So in this situation, 42% are visiting the home page. And then some are looking at other particular pages, and you can click on that and you can see what they're doing after that. And that comes in probably my favorite, almost useful element, called the, underneath that is the behavior flow. And as if by magic, the behavior flow has appeared. Has that come up on the screen? Hopefully everyone's following. Yeah, checking the chat line to see if not lost anybody. Right. Again, taking the 3-month time period, you can see what the users are doing. They come onto the landing page, and you can see the through traffic and the drop-offs. So they're on to the next page, and then they're moving on to the further page, and how many people are dropping off. So you can see the starting page is the home page. 20% are clicking through. So 165 sessions, so you can see that 80% have just arrived on the home page, got what they wanted, or been bored, or not interested, or who knows what. That's the bit to come on to, because you can look at it through other ways. But many then will click on to something else. So of those 20%, what have they done? So some have clicked onto About Us, training courses, Contact Us, marketing, and have moved on to something else. And after that, so you can see of that 12 that went on, 3 have gone further on to something else. So this is really interesting to see, you can see in a far more complex websites, how your landing pages are doing. So how this best works, if you're creating an email campaign or a social media campaign, you would like people to land on your, well, direct them to a landing page, which hopefully is interactive, engaging, whatever it might be. And then you would like to see what they do. So they're landing on that page, they're clicking through, and off they go kind of thing. So that very much refers to the behavior flow. And again, you can look at the behavior flow in far more detail by going deeper into the time periods, etc. The other bit I want to show you is events. Mentioned about events earlier. And again, there's always the overview. And here as I saw earlier, I didn't see earlier, I mentioned earlier, we've got 7 events, and this often can be here an outbound link. So you're creating your own event. So here we've created an event which is a link to something else. It can be a contact form, it can be downloading something. But an event, if you're setting up events, and again, you can create the whole process the same. So that's events. And probably the best part of the, like we saw earlier with the acquisition, when we looked at all traffic within behavior, the one for the highest view and the most probably snapshotty view is to go to all pages. So you see again the behavior on that time period, what people have done. So you've got it all on one page. The views, the unique views, the time on the page, the entrances, the exits. And then ultimately on the right hand side is the page value. And always you can click on the question mark, and it is about the goals. Now this particular site is an information only site. If some of you are conducting e-commerce, the place you need to be is under conversions. So you create goals and you look at transactions. You want to know what is working. So if you're spending money on pay-per-click, or you are just transacting online and you're bringing traffic in, you want to know if it's converting. So the conversions will be the place to go in which to master some of your activity. So you can set up a goal, you're running a campaign, you set up a goal, and you can see if it's working. You can tie that in with Google AdSense and all the different Google products. Okay, so that was a whistle-stop tour through Google Analytics. You've got, just to summarize, you've got your real time. So it tells you what's happening now, your audience, who they are, where they're coming from. Your acquisition is how they get to your site. Their behavior is what happens when they're on your site. As I mentioned earlier, then you can always go to the, and I'll click on it, the admin section, because the little things you might wish to know, a couple of little tips under the admin section. You've created an account, you then create a property. So you can have an account with a number of different websites. Like this one here has got a number of different websites within it. And then you can create a information relating to type, what you'd like to see. And you can see, as I showed earlier, that's what you see in red, where you can pick up your tracking code. So if you come on to the right hand side and look at the settings, there's one thing that you might wish to do is here you can describe the data, the website's URL, but you can also choose to exclude certain websites. Which websites do you exclude? Well, you might wish to exclude your own, because your Google Analytics will be masked if you keep visiting your own website, or a friend, whatever it might be. You can also exclude your own. And here you might wish to turn on in blue the site search tracking. Hard to say, because you've got the opportunity, if you've got a search button within your website, to track the user's search queries, as it suggests there. So lots of features in there, but really helpful ones to exclude data and to actually look what's actually happening on a site search. And that is in the admin area. I will then click to return home. A bit like ET. Now, no one has been on that time, so you can see what has happened in that time period. So my advice to you, because our 3/4 of an hour is up, because I'm conscious the old brain can only take in so much. So just to finish off with a few tips, please make sure you've got your Google Analytics code into your website. If you can't do it yourself, please ask your designer to do it for you. It cannot look retrospectively. Today is June the 15th. Your data will only be recorded from today if it's in place. It is then very useful to make sure that you can log on very clearly and see your traffic and set up your reports. You can even set those up to have them mailed to you, but look what's most useful to know. And it's particularly for your e-commerce, it's a bit, there's so much data here. The key thing often is to decide what you want to know. But if you want to know who your audience is, how they've come to you, what's the behavior, and are you making any money from them or getting inquiries from them, your Google Analytics will tell you the answers to those questions. Well, let me finish there, because today was purely a beginner's guide. If you would like to know more, then it is absolutely no problem to, we have always said, within the world of the Humber and East Yorkshire Hub, the opportunity for one-to-one support where we can actually do analytics on your particular site. So hopefully that's helped. I hope I haven't gone too quickly. And any questions before we hang up today? They will be recorded and it will be available, and I will send you a copy of the slides. Any questions? Looks like